Today, we plunge into the astounding life of Peter Francisco, the Portuguese-born behemoth whose superhuman strength and unwavering valor helped forge a nation. Pedro Francisco arrived in the world on July 9, 1760, in Porto Judeo on Terceira Island, Azores. His earliest days blend fact and folklore. Local baptismal records name his parents as Francisco Machado Luis and Antonia Maria, yet tradition insists Moorish pirates abducted him at age 5, only for the child to reappear weeks later on Virginia's City Point docks, clad in a fine velvet suit monogrammed PF. Those initials became his new identity, Peter Francisco. Judge Anthony Winston, cousin of Patrick Henry, took him into his Buckingham County household, where the boy labored 11 years as an indentured servant. By dawn, he plowed fields. By dusk, he hammered at the forge. In 1820, Francisco would recall in his pension petition,
"I have borne, in the service of my country, wounds in 2 engagements, yet I remain ready to draw my sword at a moment's warning."
This early crucible of discipline and toil forged muscles and a will that would soon be tested on the battlefield. By age 15, Peter stood 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighed roughly 260 pounds, an imposing figure in any age. Neighbors spoke in hushed tones of his feats, uprooting oak saplings, bending wrought iron bars with bare hands, and carrying sacks of grain up steep hilltops as if they were feathers. His silver blonde hair and broad shoulders gave him a mythic aura. One farmer recalled,
"I saw Francisco hoist the plow with one arm, as if teasing an errant calf."
When the drums of revolution echoed through Virginia in 1776, Francisco slipped away from Winston's plantation and enlisted in the 10th Virginia Regiment. Barely 16, his colossal frame made him both a living bulwark and an irresistible target. Yet he thrived under fire, each skirmish a proving ground. As he once told a comrade,
"I go where the fight is fiercest, for there I know my strength avails most."
Peter's first major tests came at Brandywine, September 11, 1777, and Germantown, October 4, 1777. At Brandywine, he endured British cannonballs that shattered trenches and will alike. At Germantown, he strode into smoke-choked chaos to rescue wounded comrades, dragging them through snarling bayonet lines. His broadsword flashed in the dim morning light, cutting paths through enemy ranks. Next, Fort Mifflin perched on a wind-whipped island in the Delaware River. When Hessian assault boats crash-landed against the palisade, Francisco seized a heavy saber and rushed the boarding ramp. A fellow officer later described the scene.
"There he stood, towering as a colossus, rallying our men with war cries that echoed across the river, as though proclaiming, 'Not 1 inch shall pass without our blood.'"
His defense bought precious hours for Washington's army, slowing British advances and securing the river crossings. Winter 1777 tested every continental soldier. Frostbite, starvation rations, and plague of desertion stalked the camp. At Valley Forge, Peter nursed wounds sustained at Germantown and fortified his resolve. He chopped firewood for the infirmary and hauled buckets of icy Schuylkill water, tasks that felled men half his size. Fellow soldiers marveled at his indefatigable spirit. Each dawn, Francisco led improvised drills, push-ups with bayonets, weighted marches, fencing exercises against wooden posts. His gruff encouragement,
"Stand firm! A general's eye is always upon those who endure,"
echoed through the frozen corridors of makeshift huts. By spring, he emerged stronger, his leadership by example knitting the regiment's fractured morale into a unity that would carry them into the next campaign. On June 28, 1778, at Monmouth Courthouse, a blistering sun beat down on blue-coated Continentals and red-coated British. Smoke and sweat mingled as muskets cracked. A cannonball tore into Francisco's right thigh, sending shards of bone scattering. He fell to one knee, gasping, yet refused stretcher aid until the thunder subsided. After the guns fell silent, he limped to a feldsher's table, bade bandaging soldiers,
"Do what must be done. I'll see this fight through."
Hours later, he staggered back into the lines. Weeks afterward, under Mad Anthony Wayne at Stony Point, July 15, 1779, Francisco scaled steep ramparts in the dead of night. As storming parties crept forward, he leaped atop the fortress wall, sword raised like lightning. A British sergeant later swore he heard the shout, "The giant is among us." Prize money and medals awaited him at dawn. Yet Francisco slipped away before British inspection, carrying only the quiet pride of another night conquered. August 16, 1780, Camden, South Carolina. The Continental Army reeled under crossfire as British dragoons advanced. A vital cannon, its iron barrel black with soot, sank ankle-deep in the Carolina mud. Without wheelwright's aid, it risked capture. In that critical moment, Francisco charged through a storm of musketry. Wrapping his massive arms around the 350-pound barrel, he heaved it onto his shoulder and strode backward through whistling bullets. He set it on firmer ground, braced it to a makeshift carriage, and barked orders to his comrades.
Bring up the others. This field shall not be ours, but theirs.
Lieutenant Colonel Samuel Griffin later wrote,
I have seen him lift cannon by the breech and carry it clear of danger. Such deeds make legends of us all.
On March 15, 1781, near Greensboro, North Carolina, Cornwallis's forces clashed with Nathaniel Greene's Continentals on rain-slicked fields. Amid shattered lines and fierce close combat, Francisco's sword rang out like thunder. Monument inscriptions claim he felled 11 British soldiers in succession, each stroke a testament to raw strength and unshakable resolve. As the fog of battle swirled, he suffered a bayonet rip to his thigh but pressed on. General Greene later reflected,
His strength was the marvel of men, and his courage the anchor of our line. In every desperate hour, Francisco stood unshaken.
Though Cornwallis claimed the field that day, his army lay grievously weakened, paving the road to Yorktown and ultimate victory. With the war won, Francisco returned to Virginia in 1783 and married Susanna Anderson. Their home rang with the laughter of 8 children. By day, he worked his blacksmith's forge in Richmond, shaping horseshoes, plows, and sword blades, tools of peace after years of war. One neighbor recalled,
His hammer rang like liberty's drumbeat.
in 1820, the Virginia General Assembly appointed him sergeant-at-arms. Clad in a somber uniform and wielding a ceremonial mace, he presided over legislative sessions, ensuring order among fiery orators. When asked how he commanded respect in a chamber of statesmen, he shrugged and said,
A man who carried cannons need ask no man to stand.
Peter Francisco's legend grew after his death in January 1831. In 1911, New Bedford, Massachusetts, erected a granite monument marking the tavern where he once lodged. Guilford Courthouse National Military Park added a plaque under an oak tree where he fought. Every August 16, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Massachusetts proclaim Peter Francisco Day to honor the 1780 cannon rescue. In 1975, amid bicentennial celebrations, the U.S. Postal Service issued a stamp depicting the Virginia giant hoisting a cannon on his shoulder. Collector and historian W.J. Johnston wrote, Peter Francisco's legend grew after his death in January 1831. In 1911, New Bedford, Massachusetts, erected a granite monument marking the tavern where he once lodged. Guilford Courthouse National Military Park added a plaque under an oak tree where he fought. Every August 16, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Massachusetts proclaim Peter Francisco Day to honor the 1780 cannon rescue. In 1975, amid bicentennial celebrations, the U.S. Postal Service issued a stamp depicting the Virginia giant hoisting a cannon on his shoulder. Collector and historian W.J. Johnston wrote,
That tiny piece of paper carries more weight than the cannon itself. It bears testimony to the strength of a single man who helped shape a nation.